Rock isn't dead. It's in flux.
Hi, everyone. I'm Britt with Rock and Flux, and I'm joined today by Chaz Costello of the band Sculpture Club. Chaz, thank you for being with me here today.
Of course. I'm glad that we can make it happen finally.
I know. We've been playing phone tag for scheduling for a while.
For a minute. Thanks for having me. Actually, I don't know if this will make it into the episode, and not to put you on blast, but you did just call me Chad a second ago. I only bring it up because I've done the same thing to myself. When I got a new phone one time, I texted every single person in my phone, "Hey, this is Chaz, new phone, send me your numbers." But it autocorrected to Chad. And for 3 weeks, probably 40 or 50 people just putting me on blast for calling myself Chad. So
well, that makes me feel a little better because you've done it to yourself.
I've done it to myself, and I still, to this day, my friends will bring it up to me. They'll be like, "Hey, remember that time you did something stupid?" And I was like, "Yes, I remember every time I've ever done something stupid."
You know, it's funny. I feel like I'm the one with my friends too, that it's like they do stupid stuff and everyone forgets it and no one ever brings it up. But I do something stupid forever.
It's the one. Yeah. Something special about us.
So let's talk about Sculpture Club and like how you kind of got started with that band. You've been making music for a while under that. So let's just kind of give me some background.
Yeah. So originally, the band started in Salt Lake City. I live in Dallas now, of all places. But in 2014, 15, my friend Madison and I started a band that was just guitar and drums, and it was kind of more punk, just like this punk thing that we did. We called it Jaws. And there was like a lot of confetti cannons and glitter and balloons, and it was a big kind of wild party. And then as we put out a tape or two doing that and toured some, and then I started trying to write maybe a little more interesting songs, more interesting to me at least. And we found our friend Chris, who wanted to play bass, and we're like, okay, we'll have a full band now. And then that kind of opened up a bunch of possibilities for me to try writing new ways. And then after I had written what became our first album, A Place to Stand, all the songs were so vastly different from how it had started with Jaws that it felt like it just didn't fit that name anymore. So we switched the name, we put out the album. Actually, our homies in Softkill, they have a label called Circle Social, and they put out that album. We played with them in 2016, something like that. And Toby and Nicole hit me up and were like, "Yo, what are you doing? Let's put this out." And that's kind of the origins of it. And then as I play in Choir Boy as well, and so as Choir Boy started to get more popular and get busier with touring and stuff, Madison, who played drums, she went to Yale. She's a sculptor. So she's, and then our bass player, Chris, moved to Philadelphia. She's a social worker now. And that all kind of happened at the same time that Choir Boy was getting a little more popular. So I kind of just put it on the back burner until the pandemic hit. And I mean, the whole time I had been writing songs and had all these ideas, and I had always planned to bring it back one day, but the pandemic hit, and then I recorded Worth, and then the pandemic meant that I couldn't tour on that album at all. And now I moved to Dallas, and I have a couple friends here. We just finished recording the third album, and we put out a couple singles this year. So it's just been that's a brief history of everything we've done. And it's been a bit of a roller coaster, but there it is.
I believe it. Well, so what made you move to Dallas, if I can ask?
So my partner, her work got relocated here, and they were they really wanted to keep her. She does product development at this beauty company, and she's obviously a genius. So they were please, they were moving here. They wanted us. And then they were we'll move you guys there. And at the time, nobody in Choir Boy lived in Salt Lake anymore, and nobody in Sculpture Club lived in Salt Lake anymore.
Right.
I guess that's not actually true. My friends Brett and Hallie, who also play in the band, they tour with me. They're still in Salt Lake, but it was kind of like this weird nebulous where it was like there wasn't necessarily anything keeping us in Salt Lake, and this was a really good opportunity. And I was like, why not? I have some couple friends that live here, and so we've been here for about a year now.
Okay, nice.
But a lot of that time has been spent on tour, so I feel like I still haven't quite figured it out.
I believe that. Yeah, I wouldn't even know what to do with myself in a situation like that, because you're not home that much, and you have a new home.
Yeah, totally. Trying to figure it out. And also it's like Dallas is so massive, so much bigger than Salt Lake.
Right.
Yeah. And being here half as much time as makes it, exponentially harder to figure it out.
It's so weird. Like when you move to a new place and you have to use your GPS to find anything. It's, it's just such a surreal thing,
I tried to, so I went to pick up my partner from the airport last night, and I was like, oh, I'm not going to use the GPS to get there because I've done it before. And I was like, oh, I'm going to go the other way. I know how to go. And I got totally lost and ran into traffic. And I was like, this is so embarrassing. The first time that I tried to be like, I'm not going to do it, it backfired. So I feel that very much.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it happens. I'm originally from Philadelphia, so I've been in Phoenix for quite a while, but I remember.
Oh, you're in Phoenix?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. That's cool. I lived in Lake Havasu
cool.
That's where I went to high school, and that's where my partner and I met for a long time. But I lived in Phoenix as a child too. I've moved so much in my life.
Yeah. Wow.
But yeah, Phoenix.
Yeah. Next time you all are out here, I'll try to catch your show too.
Yeah.
So where did the name Sculpture Club come from?
It was actually a joke that our friend Brett made. I don't know if he remembers making it. He plays drums, and he played drums on Worth and the new album, and he tours with us. And he and I have another band in Salt Lake called Baby Ghosts, and we've just been friends for a long time. He's also our dungeon master. So we've just known each other forever. We were hanging out one day, and we are trying to think of, we were just joking around, and I think he just made some joke about Madison being in the sculpture program at the U of U, and us being kind of an 80s band and making fun of Culture Club. And he said it offhand, and I put it into my little Google Notes of funny band names.
Yeah.
And then one night we were outside a show there's a record store in Salt Lake called Diabolical that we played at all the time. And we were seeing a friend's band, and we were all sitting there talking, and I was really tentative to bring up a name change because we had we're so this is our band, this is it, we're going to make it. And I kind of brought it up, and I was like, what do you guys think? And then Chris and Madison were both like, yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I didn't know how to say it. I didn't know what to do. And I was like, okay, I have this. And then we just keep one, upping the energy until it was okay, I got this really funny one that I think will work. It's kind of a play on words, but it's also I think it makes a lot of sense. And I said Sculpture Club, and they both loved it. So
nice.
It was a joke. That's how.
That's kind of the best way, though,
Yeah, I mean, it takes off a lot of the pressure. I feel like sometimes to not, take things too super seriously.
Mm-hmm. I agree. It's you want to be serious about it because you care about it, but not to the point that it's going to destroy any of the fun.
Yeah, totally.
So I've seen in a few places that I know on your social you say you're a new wave band, but I've seen other places that it says you're garage goth, which I've never heard that term before, and I liked it.
Thank you. That was another joke that we made up. I think actually Madison, our original drummer, she made that up because it was her and I had played in a garage rock band together. That's how we met. Okay. And we both kind of like punk and goth stuff, and so we started this other thing, and we didn't know how to do it because it was it's also poking fun at genres. They're so arbitrary, in a sense that we're okay, we can just make up something new. And since we were like kind of a garagey band and we weren't great at our instruments, or I wasn't, at least. Madison's a great drummer, but that was just like one that popped up that we were probably riffing on as a joke, and I was like, that's perfect, we'll just put that down there. So
Yeah,
another
but,
joke.
especially in your earlier stuff, I definitely hear it though. I
Totally,
hear
yeah.
like that element of it. So in talking about that, if someone said to you, I've never listened to Sculpture Club before, what song should I start out listening to? What do you think you would suggest to them?
Good question. I think maybe there's the title track of the first album, A Place to Stand. I think that is a defining one for us. That was actually the first song that I wrote without power chords in it, if you can believe it. I'm trying to use regular chords. And I think that was like that. I think that's one that defines kind of where we started going. But I mean, I think that we have also changed a lot since then. And maybe Just One More. That's another one that's it's kind of a hard question to answer,
Well, I definitely see what you mean. Because in listening to your first album, I mean, I still think the songs are good on it, but it definitely has more of that like garagey type of feel to it. And then and I was going to ask you about this too. Like you took a decent break between your first album to Worth, which is your latest album. And Worth is also great, but the song it's a lot more polished, I would say, a little less garagey. So it is interesting, but it's interesting to hear both albums as a listener, because you can see the growth from the first to now. But I do think there's a place for those first songs, it's
totally. Yeah.
And it's funny because like I actually feel that A Place to Stand, it even has a little bit of like an Interpol feel to me.
I'll take that. Thank you.
Yeah. It was a really interesting song to me. And I like that one. I think it's a good place to start. I would agree. Even if it's a little different than where you all are now, because I feel like you can kind of hear where you're going in that.
Totally. Yeah. I feel that same way. And it's like that first album we recorded in our friend Mike's basement, it was Madison's roommate, and we just did it in a room over a few days.
Cool.
And when it came time to do Worth, and when I had time, Hallie, who has played bass and plays guitar and also did all the cello on Worth and the new album and stuff. Cool. Her brother has a really amazing studio that he had opened in Salt Lake. And so he was like, hey, come check it out. And so it went from like 2 rooms in a basement to like an actual nice studio. And I feel like it shows in the record. But yeah, I think A Place to Stand and then Just One More, I think, are both 2 good ones. You take your pick, I guess.
Okay. I will. So what was the reason kind of between the two, like the timeline of your 2 albums that you put out? Is it just you didn't have time to what you were saying earlier, or did you maybe not feel like you had the songs ready? And obviously we had a pandemic happen too, so.
Right. Yeah. I think it was a little bit of both. I think when we put out the first album, we toured that. I mean, we only were able to tour it like a couple of times. And I had started this, then Choir Boy started to get a little bit more popular, and we got asked to go on all these awesome tours. And so I was doing that. And then also a little bit after that time, Adam and I had put out another album with our other band called Human Leather, and we did a tour with that. And so I think I have a bad habit of starting too many bands and trying to do a lot of stuff with bands, with whoever wants to do something. I'm like, yeah, let's make it happen. And I had like a handful of songs. Like we released one song after A Place to Stand called Not Impressed. That was just kind of a standalone single.
Mm-hmm.
And then I did like a cover or two on Bandcamp. And I had like slowly been like, I had a big group of songs that I thought would be for Sculpture Club, but then I would use one of them for Human Leather, or I use one of them for Choir. Like,
yeah.
I don't know if you know the Choir Boy song Complainer, but that originally was supposed to be a Sculpture Club song, but I had shown it to Adam and he was like, oh, what if we did this when we did that? And so I would just like had all these songs, and some of them would get used here and some of them would get used there, until I decided and had time to work on like an actual album. And then I tried to take all the stuff that was left over and then write, enough to fill it out. And so it's a little bit of both, of like touring with other projects and then just making sure that I had what felt like a good album to do. And, I think that it just took a long time.
Yeah. Sometimes it does though,
Yeah, that's true. And like, yeah, I think it was just that, getting busy with touring, and then just, using bits of pieces of songs over here and starting over and doing that. It just was like kind of on the back burner. It was always there, but I think once I was just waiting for the right opportunity for it to open up so that I could go and do this thing, and then it did. So
nice.
But
and
it's
then
exhausting.
I also, I can't even imagine. Because I mean, it's hard enough like for me to do this because I'm pretty much doing it by myself.
Right.
But I can't, as a creative person, like I can't even imagine doing all the different music that you do. But I'm sure it's like you have to be so fulfilled though, even with the tiresome aspect of it,
Totally. I mean, I don't think that I would keep doing it. Well, I don't know. Maybe we could analyze it, self-punishment, I guess. But there is something very fulfilling about it. And I think that it's like, it's kind of maybe the one thing that I feel that I'm good at, even when I don't feel that I'm good at it. And I guess maybe the thing that makes the most sense. But yeah, it is fulfilling. It makes me feel like me. So that's good.
Yeah, I would say definitely. I mean, that's to me like one of the most important things. And I was just having this conversation with some of my friends that were on the show earlier this week about, I think honesty in anything that you do is so important, and like sincerity. And I think the minute that you see someone not being sincere or trying to, make themselves seem something that maybe they're not, I think people can kind of see through it,
Yeah, I mean, people can pick up on that, and in art, I think pretty well.
Yeah, I think so too. Because I mean, it shows, especially for music. I guess you could just record, but if you really love to do it, eventually you're going to want to perform that live to get that interaction.
I mean,
and
sorry, go ahead.
It's okay. Well, I was going to say, like, I think when you do perform live, that's when it really shows.
Yeah, totally. And I think the live performance aspect, especially for me, is like, that's the thing that feels like it can feel the most rewarding. I mean, I think anybody that like plays music knows this is like, you can have a great show that makes you feel like the most incredible you've ever felt. And then you do it again the next night and it doesn't hit as hard, but it had hit so hard the night before that you're like, that show was shit. And then you're kind of chasing this weird, chasing this feeling. It's a bizarre thing, but it's like that feeling is so worth it when you have a good show that you work so hard all the time to make sure that it happens. It's I don't know, there's a lot of value in that. And I feel like people can see the sincerity and see that you're trying to make sure that it's like a great show for them and a great show for you and a great, like, I feel like it's communal almost in a sense, you know, and I feel like people can pick up on that pretty easy.
Yeah, I think especially in the live situation, it's hard to hide, you know?
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
Because, you can hide behind, the Pro Tools and all the other things, but when you're on a stage in front of people, it's kind of hard to hide. You're there, you know?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I felt that feeling before.
Let's talk about your live show. So I'm always interested in especially with bands that like use different instrumentation and different effects and things like that. And I mean, for you, like you have classical instruments that you include in your recordings as well. How do you handle that when you're moving it to a live situation?
It depends. So we kind of have two lineups. We have one that can tour, which is a full 2 guitars, bass and drums. And then I have a lineup here for local shows, which is guitars, guitar, drums, and drum machine and backing tracks. And so it kind of differs from thing to thing. And I'm still trying to figure out how to make them glue all together. And I think that, with backing tracks, it's really nice because you can just have like the high fidelity recordings of cellos and saxophones or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. And you're kind of supplementing that with, the live guitars and things like that. And I think it's really pretty and nice. But when we, like on this last tour we just did it as a 4-piece. And it felt like there was enough energy there and enough of us there that we didn't use any backing tracks. And I think that a lot of it, especially for Sculpture Club, is like getting the energy across or getting that feeling across more so than every little bit and piece of the song aren't as important sometimes as just being able to like play it, like just like play it as best and as hard as you can for the crowd. And so it's something that I'm still trying to like dial in because I love the sound of like the cellos and the upright pianos and stuff that we have on the songs. But sometimes it makes it feel like a little more cluttered and unnecessary, and sometimes it doesn't. And so I just kind of take it a step at a time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's all you can do. It's like there's always going to be a learning curve with everything too.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
And it takes time to find that sweet spot, I think, with anything. I do, and I know, and you mentioned this earlier, so I read that you used to have confetti cannons. Do you still do that at all, or have you?
No, we moved. We actually started talking about this the other day at band practice because I used to have like there's a place in Salt Lake, or probably all over, called Zurcher's. It's like a party supply store.
Okay.
And they would have these they'd have small ones that were like this big, and then they'd have like big ones that were like like 2 feet, okay. And they're compressed air cannons, and they shoot out confetti. And like, so when we had started Jaws and what became Sculpture Club, we wanted to, because we're all just like from punk bands and playing house shows and backyards and shitty bars and stuff. And so we wanted to bring kind of like the full like Motley Crue, like, big arena show style vibes in a DIY space. So it's like, how do you do that? You just go buy the cannons and give them to your friends and ask them to set them off, or do confetti and try to do, just kind of like make it a party.
Yeah.
We're all struggling in it, but we're in it together. So let's just freak out for a little bit. And as time went on and I was trying, writing a little more serious songs, or maybe getting a little bit of headway and playing in different places, like we'd always ask if we could do it, and we'd always stay and clean it up and make sure like that we didn't just screw over whatever.
Yeah.
Some places would ask us not to do it. Some places would be like, oh hell yeah, let's go. And but as I was starting to write maybe a little more serious songs, or wanted to be taken like maybe a little bit more seriously as like I don't know, I feel like everybody get that way. You want to be taken more serious, so you start trying to act more serious, even if it's not necessarily how you are.
Right.
And so I stepped away from that. And then when we were recording Worth, I thought like these are a little more like softer songs and trying to like move the band forward, and stepped away from that. I also didn't have like all the, we hadn't been playing shows up to that time, so I hadn't really been thinking about the live show. And then we started playing like, bigger places or different places that maybe didn't vibe with it. So, but then we were just talking about at band practice that it's like, maybe we should bring that back. I mean, it was a blast. So we haven't done it in a long time, but maybe we will again soon.
Did anyone who like used to go to your shows before when you were doing them and then you stopped, did they say anything to you like, hey, where are the cannons?
I mean, I probably, I mean, there's like, I think that more so people remember like when shows would get really out of hand. There was like a show where we were playing this house in Salt Lake, and I had given a confetti cannon to my friend Harry, and they're really hard to like pop if you've never done one before. Like they take they take way more pressure and like power than you think. And so you'll sit there twisting them and you're like, oh, what's happening? And they were standing right next to me while I was singing, and they were like trying to figure it out. And then it popped, and it's like a big CO2 blast. And it blasted me like right in the face while I was singing. So I was like, give up. Like, and then there was my friend Brett, who plays drums in the band now. Before he was in the band, we had Silly String at the show, and every time that I would go up to sing, I would go to open my mouth and he'd spray Silly String in my mouth. Like, so I feel like people more remember the crazy stuff that happened more so than why did it stop. I mean, there's still like at Diabolical in Salt Lake, there's still like confetti every once in a while will fall from little cracks in the ceiling and stuff. And
that's funny.
So, I mean, I'm sure people did ask me that, but not so much anymore.
Well, that's kind of good, though. Yeah. I mean, did you ever do one of those glitter bombs? Because that would have been a horrible thing to clean up.
We didn't do glitter bombs. We would like get balloons and we would fill them up with glitter ourselves. It was so much work, so much more work than, like instead of practicing the guitar, I would spend hours like pumping up balloons and trying to drop glitter in them so that when, if they popped on accident, they would do it. And so like I'm sure that there's a picture somewhere where it's just like chaos all over the ground. There's like glitter, there's streamers, there's confetti, there's like, it's stuck to everybody. There's Silly String. Yeah.
Glitter is the worst.
Glitter is the worst.
To clean up. Like every time at like Christmas time, if you get any of those like ribbons or any paper, like sometimes my mom sends stuff and it's got that glitter on it, and I'm like, no, because it's gonna be there for months to come. Like you're gonna find it.
When I made the new video for Cursed or Hexed, I did it all kind of like DIY style on this paper, and I bought a ton of glitter to do like crafts with, and it's still like stuck in the wood floors, and I can't get it out of the carpets and places, and it's just like it is a hassle, but it is beautiful. So what are you gonna do?
Yeah, it is, but good Lord, it is really tough to get rid of that stuff. For sure. So you do have a new single, Cursed or Hexed. When that came out this year, so can you tell me a little bit about that song? Is it going to be part of an upcoming album, or are you just putting it out as a single only?
It's going to be on the new album. So we just had a song come out yesterday as well. That is part of that like single, double side single. Curse or Hex was like a song that I had written a little bit after we had done Worth. And, it was kind of like, it felt like another next step of things in the band. I was listening to a lot of like Sarah records and a lot of twee stuff at the time, which I've always loved. And I started writing that song and messing around with these chords. And we had gone into Archive Studios where we recorded Worth and where we just finished recording the rest of the new album. And we went in there for a couple days and recorded these two songs. And initially I had this big grandiose plan to do like a series of split 7 inches with other bands, other Salt Lake bands and other friends bands. And these were going to be the first 2 songs for a bunch of dual 7 inches. I had this big idea for all the artwork and stuff. And then it kind of just, the best laid plans, it didn't work out. And so I was kind of sitting on these songs for a while. I didn't know what to do. And the Born Losers guys, I had gotten a hold of their emails, and I'd really loved like all the bands that they had been putting out and working on. And I was like, oh, I wonder if they'd be interested. And I had sent them, I was like, hey, what's up? You don't know me, but I know Cass and Kyle and Night Sins and, the Corinne folks. And I love what you're doing. And I got these 2 songs. I was just wondering if you'd be interested in working together. And they emailed me back like right away. And they're like, let's hop on a call. Like, let's make it happen. And they've been amazing. And we talked only like maybe like 6 months ago, and they've, already like had a plan in place to put it all out. And so, but yeah, that's how that came about.
Nice.
I forgot what the question was. I'm sorry.
No,
Sorry,
it's actually really
babbling.
funny. It was just whether or not that it was going to lead to a full album, and
it
just
is
talking about. Okay.
They're going to be, both the songs are going to be on a full album that I just actually got an email about the final round of mixes. So once those get approved, hopefully sometime next year they'll come out. But yeah, it's part of a bigger thing.
It's actually funny. You're like one of my best interviews, I think, so far, because you are leading right to the questions that I'm planning on asking. So it's actually really helpful because it's making the conversation just flow right where I needed to go. But I was going to ask you about the Born Losers because I went to college with Chris.
Oh, really?
So
wow,
we
crazy.
we both went to Drexel in Philadelphia, and we majored in music industry. It was a fairly new major at the time. It's still there at that school. And he came on this show a few months ago. But I love what he's doing with Born Losers too. I think it's at first I didn't even realize, like, I knew his I'm friends with him on his personal page on my personal like social.
Right. So it's like a different vibe.
Yeah, but also he like his handle is Chris Loser. So like I knew what he was doing, but for whatever reason, I don't always put 2 and 2 together. And when I started doing this, I kept seeing Born Losers pop up, and I'm like, why do I know that name? Why do I know that name? And then I finally put 2 and 2 together. I'm like, oh, duh! Like this is what Chris is doing.
That's so funny.
Yeah, and so he and I guess have a lot of the similar music taste because
here we are.
I like I really like a lot of what they've done and who they worked with. So it's
me
funny.
too. They I feel like they have like one of the most diverse like catalogs right now, and I think they especially do well with making sure it's not just like straight white dudes like me. There's queer artists and they just have like a great assortment of like artists, and I feel like it's everything, which is how I think that we all listen to music, whether we admit it to anybody else or not.
Right.
But where it's like they kind of have like shoegaze band and a post-punk band and like a hard industrial band or like a really soft indie band or like singer-songwriter stuff like bizarro hip hop by old like emo guys, and they just have like such a diverse thing. And when I hit them up, and we started talking, they're just like, they're very artist focused, and they're very down to try out whatever you want to do, and very much just like, how do we make this work for both of us? Like, we want to make sure that you're okay too. And so that was just like, something I really vibed with.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so interesting too, because like the program that we were in, you had to get accepted to the overall school, and then you had to get accepted into that program. And there were only 65 kids in that whole thing. So we all really knew each other really well because it was so small.
Right.
And I think he would probably say the same thing that I say. Like, we already kind of all had like our musical ideas, obviously, when we got there, but it was so diverse. Like there were so many like different kids, different personalities, different like people with liking different types of music, and we all got along for the most part really well. So it kind of forged, I think, a lot of how, you know, we act now with like the what we focus on, you know.
Right.
And yeah, I'm super proud of what they've done with that, because they're doing a great job. So
has anybody else come out of that program doing anything that we would know of?
People were, but no, I don't think so. Oh well, if you know, like Todd McCoy is another one of our friends, and he does a lot of different sound work. He works for Cambridge Studios in Philadelphia, but he's on tour right now with do you know the TV show on Comedy Central? It's like Coworkers, I think it's called.
Yeah, I do. I've seen that.
They're on tour because they have a podcast.
Oh, right on.
It's like a comedy show. It's actually really funny. And Todd is on tour doing their sound right now.
Oh, killer.
So yeah, it's not necessarily like, he does mixing and producing at home on music, but now he also does sound for them too. So yeah, there are some people that do some stuff, and some people completely left because, as you know, the music industry is
relentless.
Yeah, it's
and
tough.
Cruel
it's
sometimes.
Very, very, for sure.
Yeah.
And then you also, I noticed you DJ on top of everything else that you do here and there.
Who doesn't? Let's be honest.
What got you into doing that?
It actually happened on a tour, a Choir Boy tour. We were playing a show, and then a friend who had a bar, I don't remember where it was actually, it might have been San Diego, was like, hey, we want to throw this after party. If you guys want to come, like, we'll throw you a couple extra bucks to DJ this thing. And Adam and Michael had DJ'd already, and they kind of gave us the rundown. And at the time we were like, you know, really, we weren't making a lot in opening slots. And so we're like, oh man, if we do this, you know, we maybe get a hotel room, or, you know, do some, just have a little extra cash around to make life easier. And so we started doing that. And then we got asked to do a couple more. And then it's like, I know people harp on DJs because, of course, like, it's a really funny gig to like be like, hey, you guys want to come watch me listen to music? I know that it's more than that, but you know what I mean? And but it's so fun to do. Like, when I was trying to figure it out, it's just like, I don't know, it's like a different aspect of music. It's kind of like finding these, I don't know what, I can't explain exactly what it is. It's just really fun. And so, you know, my partner and I used to throw these goth nights in Salt Lake, and we put together these playlists and try to just like make them mix and work together. But it's just fun. Fun. And a lot of times it's easier to get a gig DJing than it is to get a gig as Sculpture Club or like any band for that matter. You know, people would want to hear songs that they already know, and it's you know, you could go and DJ like a bar or whatever and not even say where you're, like, you know, Chaz from Choir Boy or Sculpture Club, and you could go and DJ and still get paid more than you would if you went and played a show there, which feels crazy, but it is what it is. But yeah, do that from time to time if people let me.
Well, I think that's cool. I think it's good to have like a broad, you know, array of things.
Yeah,
no one wants
totally.
to just do one thing, you know?
Yeah, and I feel like I fit that to a fault. I do way too much stuff.
Well, Chaz, thank you for being with me today. It was a really nice conversation. It was good to get to know you a little bit and to get to talk to you. So I appreciate you.
Of course, yeah. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. So they can find you all, Sculpture Club, on social media, right?
Yep, Sculpture Club on Instagram and you know, TikTok and Threads and YouTube and all over. Just all the normal ones.
Okay. And you're on all the streaming platforms your music is, so you can be found on there too.
That's right. I just got an email. We're on CapCut. Go ahead and stitch us into your TikTok videos.
All right.
Yeah,
nice.
we're all over we're on all that stuff.
Well, cool. Thank you so much again. It was great to have you.
Yeah, thank you.